No, man, but you got to keep going. What am I going to do, quit? That's not an option. You got to keep on keeping on. Life's a garden, dig it? You make it work for you. You never give up, man. That's my philosophy.
Hey gardeners, hope you're all having a great week in your gardens. I'm out here checking out our peach tree, which I talk about a lot on the show, but this year we are so fortunate as to not have such late frost like last year, which killed off so much of our fruit. So we've got just bunches and bunches of these little fuzzy peaches popping up all over our tree. So yeah, looking forward to some delicious peaches later in the season. Now, let's get growing. All right, everybody. Welcome, all my garden enthusiasts and passionate plant people, to the Let's Get Growing show here on the Urban Gardener channel. And I really, really appreciate all of you joining with us here today for what is going to be just a really great show. I'm really looking forward to talking to our guest today. We have with us coming up in just a little bit here later on in the show. We've got with us Destin Noak, Texas garden guy. Really looking forward to talking to him. And here in just a few minutes too, we'll be talking to Ryan Cook from Heavenly Hills Homestead. So definitely stay tuned for these really great interviews coming up here in just a little bit on the show here. And again, I want to thank you all so much for joining with us. And right at the top of the show, if you can, hit that thumbs up, click the like button there for us, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and of course share with all of your friends our show, and let everybody know what we've got growing on here on the Let's Get Growing show on the weekends. And definitely one of the things I'm encouraging everybody to do too right now is comments are really awesome. You know, the likes, any sort of interaction really helps our show get seen by more people. So definitely, if you can, jump in and jump in and leave some comments. And also too, big shout out to all of our replay watchers on the show. I know a lot of you are watching on the replay, and I really appreciate all of you as well too. And same thing, jump into the comment section below. Let me know you're here. Let me know what you got growing on. Let me know if you got any suggestions for the show, or if there's any guests or any sort of things that you would like to see on the show. I would definitely love to hear about that from you as well too. So definitely jump in those comments and leave lots and lots of comments, and those help more and more people see our show. So again, thank you so much. And also, if you have any questions too or comments while you are here on the show, definitely jump into our chat box there and join in on the conversation, and definitely ask some questions for us for when our guests come on the show as well too. It'd be really awesome to be able to ask some questions that you might have of them as well too. And we might just feature those on the show. And one other quick endorsement is for our Facebook group, the Let's Get Growing group. I've got a link down below in the description for all of you to follow over to Facebook and join our community at the Let's Get Growing Facebook group. And this is a great place where you can get to share all of your garden pictures, all the things growing on in your gardens, so that I can check out what you've got growing on. So definitely come and check us out over on the Let's Get Growing show. Again, thank you so much, everybody, for joining with us here today. I'm really excited about the show today and excited about having all of you here with us. Definitely last week we had a kind of a week off, but I was still here. We just kind of did a really fun live stream and all of that, and we took off our Sunday, so it was kind of almost a weekend off for me last week. So it was kind of really nice to be able to catch up on some things and do that. But definitely come and check us out as well tomorrow, same time, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, for our Sunday edition of the Let's Get Growing show. And on tomorrow's show, we are inviting back our good friends Kang Starr from Texas, and Christopher Bransdahl, a good friend of ours from Norway. These two guys are really great friends of mine for many years now, and we were trying to do a live stream with them few weeks back, but something came up with Kang, and we did have kind of a fun little discussion with Chris. But we wanted to get them back together because I love talking to these two together, and all of that is something we've done each and every year for the past several years now. So it'd be great to have them back on the show together. So I hope all of you come and join with us as well and check out that conversation. And I also want to remind everybody too that we have our Book of the Month Club, and we are featuring Tony O'Neill's Simplify Gardening, Simplify Vegetable Gardening. I got to get that right. He wrote this really awesome book. I've been reading it and checking it out over the last couple of weeks now, and it is just full of just really great simplified garden knowledge, lots of good plant science and all that sort of stuff in this book. It's just a really, really awesome book. So I really encourage everybody to go out, check out that book, get the book, and come and join us for the third week of the month. And let me double check real quick. Third week of the month, or third Sunday of the month week. I'm so third Sunday of the month, which will be the 19th. On the 19th, we'll have Tony with us, and co-hosting that show with me is our good friend Mark Boucher Colbert, our good friend who does our In the Garden segments as well too. So it's going to be really awesome to talk with Tony and have a great discussion about this really, really great book that he wrote. So definitely come and join us for that as well too. So a couple of big things going on today. I'm sure a lot of people are really familiar with the fact that it's May the 4th. So May the 4th be with you. It's Star Wars Day as well today. So I hope everybody's having a great Star Wars day. I'm a big, huge fan of Star Wars. You don't see it most of the time because my head's in the way, but that's my Star Wars shelf right up here in the back there. Big fan and everything too. So I always look forward to this day of the year. It's really kind of fun just to kind of celebrate our fandom of the galaxy far, far away. And also too, though, it happens to run and coincide with another huge day in the gardening world. And believe me, this today is World Naked Gardening Day. All right, I'm gonna just tell you something right now. World Naked Gardening Day is really fun, and gardeners have so much fun with it. You just look that up, Google it, and hit the Google images, and just go. You'll see tons of people who have so much fun with all of that. That is just one thing you won't be seeing me doing. I will spare everybody that for sure, definitely. I did several years ago, though. I did shoot a thumbnail that I was doing for a video I was going to make for Naked Gardening Day, where I just had my shirt off and I was showing my shoulders and everything. I saw the picture and I was like, no one else in the whole wide world is ever going to see this picture. So that is, that was basically the whole me dipping my toes into World Naked Gardening Day, and immediately, like the very, very cold water that at your lake or a river or something, boom, right back out. Not doing it. But I hope everybody else has really fun. I know tons of people really, really have a lot of fun, and definitely a lot of channels and a lot of people that I follow as well too. So I enjoy it outside, but not much of a participant. So I hope everybody else is having a great World Naked Gardening Day. So, and yeah. And also too, last week when I was doing the live stream with everybody, I did talk about, and I can barely see it here on the side. It's actually kind of browning up right now here. This is a flower stalk that came up off of my corn plant. It's a Dracania fragrans, and this is literally one of my favorite flowers. Definitely as far as any plant that I'm growing in my indoor garden. Here's a closer look at some of the flowers as they're emerging, and luckily we got these pictures of this because it just happened so fast. Literally, they bloomed like just the day after I did last week's show, and then they're already drying up by this time a week later. So very short-lived flowers, but I'm telling you what, this is the coolest thing about it. It's why they're called Dracania fragrans, is because they have fragrance. And it's a fragrance it's just unbelievable. If you're lucky enough to have a corn plant and get to have one of these flowers, you'll know exactly what I mean. It just fills the house. And then if you open any of the doors, it just goes wafting into the air, and your neighbors can smell that as well too. If you, if you know, if they're out and about and walking by your place and all of that sort of stuff. I actually, the very first one I had, um, I grew in an apartment, and it was the very first flower. I had that plant probably almost 10 years before it finally gave me a flower. They are kind of rare. I mean, you can get them, and I've heard people have techniques on forcing them. I'm not sure what it is that I've done to encourage this one, plus the one I actually got just a couple of years ago as well from this same corn plant. So I've been lucky enough to get two blooms now. In about 6 years, I've had this one. So been very lucky with that. But I was growing this. I was living in an apartment, and I remember when it flowered, I opened the door, and literally my neighbor next door was like, "What is that smell?" You know, he was asking me as I was outside, and I had to show him. I was like, "I can't believe," because I was new to me. I was just learning about it because I couldn't believe it. I myself walked into my apartment going, "What in the world is that? Did somebody just come and spray perfume everywhere or something?" And you know, it took me a little bit to finally discover that it was the corn plant that was flowering. So been really enjoying that around here in the house for this last week and everything too. So I thought I would show you all these nice, cool, beautiful flowers from that corn plant. Yeah, so right on. We got lots of things growing on. Today, though, I mean, it is pouring down rain outside, and it's a good thing too, though. So I'm not sure if I'm going to get outside to be able to do much today, but it is definitely pouring like I haven't seen for a while, and it's a really good thing too because our weather forecast is just getting warmer and warmer as we're going. By next weekend show, we're going to be in the 80s already for us here in Southern Oregon. And that's just kind of one of those things that happens to us almost every spring. Is it's just like a little switch that flips. You know, we go from nice and cool nights and all of that to summer. So I'm hoping it might be just a little warm spell, and then we'll get some more cooler days and all of that, so we can extend our spring out just a little bit longer, because summer is still a little ways away for us, and we'd like to keep it that way too. But it'll be nice to have some nice weather too, and really be able to get out there and get some things done in the garden. I've got to because it's so warm, and because I can see so far into the forecast now, being our last frost date here for the area is mid-May. I can already see to mid-May, and it's already, like I said, warm temperatures. We're gonna be in the eight. It's time, man. I'm getting my tomatoes out. I'm doing all of that sort of stuff here in the next day or two. So it's go time for me. And I kind of talked a little bit about that as well last week too. That's just kind of the thing. Another big thing too, though. Is checking soil temperature and making sure you got a nice soil temperature right around 50 degrees or higher is something, you know, about the minimum you want for your tomato plants. And I'm sure we're going to be just fine on that when it comes to the next couple of days. So I'm really excited about getting those tomatoes out. We're going to wait just a little bit further for our peppers. I'll give that about another week just to be sure, and then we'll get the peppers out, and then we'll get everything out, and then in a couple of weeks as we get closer to June, then it's time to go out, start direct sowing all of our cucurbits, and you know, squash, the melons and the cucumbers and all those sort of awesome warm weather things that we're going to do. Corn, we got a whole bunch of corn we're going to grow over at my friend's place, that we have those big giant garden plots. We got two big 20-foot by 40-foot plots, and he's getting excited about planting corn. I was just telling him we got to hold off just a little bit longer, We'll get them going soon. And so we'll do that. We've already got tons of garlic growing. We got about 300 heads of garlic coming out of the 50 that we grew last year. So that's really cool. We planted out potatoes a couple weeks back, and they're already just busting up out of the ground and looking awesome. So we got lots of things growing on over there as well too. So really excited about everything and getting all of our growing season going. So hope all of you as well too. And all right. Well, we're gonna go ahead and take our first break here real quick. We'll come right back. I'm gonna check in with all of you, and we'll get to talk with our very first guest. Let's Get Growing is sponsored by IV Organic.
Hi, my name is Charles Malky, biologist and plant expert with Ivory Organics, where we grow cool plants, and author, Saving the World with the Home Garden. Ivory Organic 3-in-1 Plant Guard has 7 natural oils that protect your plants, not just from the summer heat as well as winter cold, but also protects your plants from damaging insects and rodents. The oils in the product include castor, cinnamon, clove, garlic, peppermint, rosemary, and spearmint. These oils are natural insect and rodent repellent oils, which are encapsulated by the base powder, offering your plants months of protection at a time. 1 application per year will suffice for protection against damaging summer sunburn and winter sun scald, but if the target is pests, application as much as 2 to 3 times a year may be necessary.
Hi everyone, this is Sarah from Sarah's Seed Shop, here with this week's trivia question. Which of the following flowers is often planted as a companion plant for tomatoes? A. Marigolds, B. Hyssop, C. Cosmos, or D. Geraniums? We'll be back with the answer to this week's trivia question later on in the show.
All right, all right. Taking it nice and easy on you this week for garden trivia this week. Definitely jump in and let us know what you think the answer is there for you. And let's jump in and see who we got joining with us today in the chat box. Of course, right off the top, let's welcome our good friend and moderator, best moderator on YouTube for sure, Jay Dixon, in the chat there, dropping in all of the links and information as we go through the show today. Thank you so much, Jay, for joining with us this week. We also got Serena Norell joining back with us again. Awesome. Good to see you, Serena. She mentions yep, she was asking too. Today's Star Wars Day and World Naked Gardening Day. Anyone celebrating either of these? Yeah, definitely. Celebrating Star Wars. I'm watching, but not participating as far as Naked Gardening Day, as I was talking earlier. But we got Bill Will Dog joining with us. Good afternoon. And he's coming over from the Garden Like a Viking live stream that happens right before our show too. So awesome to see you here with us, Big Will Dog. Jersey Girl, great to see you again on the show. Awesome. Thanks for joining with us. Connie again, awesome to see you here today. And Val, we got Val in the house. Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday. Awesome. Let's see here. Trying to go through here and see. We've got Bowtie Life in the Garden. Awesome. Thanks for joining the show with us. Great to have you here with us today. Awesome. And let's see here. I'm trying to. Connie says, I have Yoda sitting on my dresser and lots of Star Wars action figures. Awesome. That's right. Love my Star Wars. Although, I mean, I'll say one thing about Star Wars is that I'm at the age where the first Star Wars movie that I actually saw or got to see in the theaters was Return of the Jedi. So I got to get in towards the end of the first series of movies. Connie says those were flowers are pretty. Yeah, those are really neat, delicate flowers on that corn plant for sure. Awesome. And of course, we got our good friend Texas Garden Guy jumping in with a super chat on there. Awesome. Excited to be on the show. Excited to talk to you. So everybody hang on here in just a little bit. We'll be talking with him. And in just a moment too, Heavenly Hills Homestead in the comments as well too there. Awesome. Let's see here. Make sure we're catching up with everybody. Oh, we got Rob's Allotment Gardening from the UK in the chat with us as well too. Awesome. It's good to see you, Rob. Excellent. Awesome, guys. Everybody, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for joining in with the show. It's really great to have you here. And and really looking forward to our first guest of the show.
Are you following me? Are you following me, dude?
All right. For our Are You Following Me segment today, we have joining with us a good friend who actually reached out to me a while back ago. I mean, I know what it was a while back ago, and I've already been on his channel a couple of times and had some great conversations with him too. So I was really looking forward to getting him on our show so that we can introduce him to everybody here. So let's bring into the show our good friend Ryan Cook from Heavenly Hills Homestead, joining with us today. Great to see you, Ryan.
Great to be here.
Yeah.
Party naked I am.
Awesome. There you go. Bring it together. Bring it together.
Right. So and you'll be on my show at the end of the month of May.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
that's one of the things that too. I love it when people reach out to me and I get a chance and opportunity to take part in things that they're doing on their shows and their live streams and everything as well too. And like I said, we've already had a couple of just really awesome, great conversations. One of them led up to a plant that you got hanging there by your head, right?
Yes. This is awesome. And so little quick story. My grandpa, it's been like 2 years, and he's like, I got this plant I've been growing for you and your wife, and you need to come get it. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, what is it? And I go down there and I look at it and I'm like, well, after the last conversation with you on our, live, and me and you had talked about yours, I went down there and I looked and I was like, oh, I know what that is. He's like, you do? I was like, yeah, it's a pothos plant. And he said, well, good, get it out of here because I don't know what it is. I've been growing it for you for 2 years. I want it out. And no problem, So, but yeah, it's huge. And when I brought it home,
how lucky, man.
Oh yeah, like when I brought it home, it was nowhere near this big, and I've just been letting it grow because it's attached to the ceiling, and I just been letting it grow on the ceiling to come to me, and so now we're going to fix that because now it's getting pretty long, and then it grows all the way back there and starts to wrap around the side of the room there. So it's a lot of fun to grow them.
I mean, how lucky of you to be able to get one that someone spent some time and already got a good head start growing for you and everything too. As everybody knows on our show, we have ours that wraps around all the way around, actually, around the ceiling here that we have in our studio area here. And it's one of my oldest plants. I've had it for around 25 years, this pothos plant, and just one of my favorite plants. And it's great to see them extend out and grow like that too. That's awesome. So, all right, Ryan, again, thank you so much for joining with us. How about a quick little introduction to everybody here who's on the show with us today? Let everybody know who you are, your channel, and all of that sort of stuff, and maybe a little bit about you there.
Yeah, so my name's obviously Ryan Cook, and we started Heavenly Hills Homestead in 2021. Doing a small YouTube channel. We went over and started doing Instagram and TikTok as well. We just homestead. It started out as a way to help growers, giant growers, and gardeners get more information because the giant growers that were on YouTube, they would show you like, oh, this is what I done and this is what I done, but they weren't teaching you, right? They weren't going step by step. And I'm more of a learner of seeing people do it step by step. And so I wanted to, kind of help those people, bridge that gap. Right. And so I started the YouTube channel to kind of help out, and it just kind of turned into something more than that. It's fun, or, I try to be as interactive as I can with people. And it's not just about growing giants or growing, fruits and vegetables out in the garden. We do much more than that, hatching our own eggs and milking goats and taking care of pigs. I mean, it's an actual homestead. And we're learning too. We don't know it all. So, we're learning in the process. So people get to see our mistakes as much as they do our successes.
Yeah. That's awesome. In fact, I think that's one of the things I remember I first when we first met each other, whatever, was you growing these big giant, you're a giant grower. It's one of the things that fascinates me too, is gotten to talk to a few different people who grow them. And I grew myself one year, it's actually now several years ago now, but I grew myself a 132-pound pumpkin. And I thought it was the most massive thing. It literally took me and my daughter both to carry it from the back out to the front for the fall season. We wanted to show it off in the front of the house and everything, but it took both of us to lift that thing up, man, and get it over there. And it was a big pumpkin, but I can't imagine growing those suckers that you grow, man. What's the biggest pumpkin you've grown?
1,016 pounds. And
wow.
then I was the runner up for the prettiest pumpkin in the world in 2022. And last year I grew the prettiest pumpkin in the world. So that's pretty cool. I've got
what qualifies as a prettiest pumpkin in the world?
So basically they go by the standard of getting an award for Howard Deal, the Howard Deal Award. They go by that. So color first, then shape of the pumpkin, and then size of the pumpkin. And then so I'm pretty well known for growing very, very pretty pumpkins. I've had 3 seasons, and in 3 seasons I've gotten 4 Howard Deal Awards. And there's people there's people been growing for a lot longer than me and don't have one. So I've that's kind of my niche in it. I don't really grow to break any records with them. I just want to grow really, really pretty pumpkins. In my mind, when you look at, I don't want something on the back of my truck that you look at and go, what is that? When you look at it, I want you to go, that is the biggest pumpkin I've ever seen. That's my goal, right? Not for you to go, what is that? Is that a pumpkin? Right. I don't want, because a lot of times that's what happens, that, they're kind of weird looking, odd shaped, and it kind of look like a mudslide. And I don't want that, right? I want them to be pretty and round and
that's what I was going to say. They like them nice and round, not the kind of flattening out, basically. Right.
Exactly.
A lot of them look like. That's awesome. Do you do any other kind of competitive growing, or are there anything else besides pumpkins that you do? Tried?
I hold 38 state records, which is the world record for the most state records held by one person at one time.
Nice.
So that's pretty cool.
Which state again?
What is it?
Which state again? I'm sorry.
West Virginia.
West Virginia. That's right.
Yep.
Okay.
And so that's cool. The competitive side of it is ugly. So I compete against myself. I don't really, and if I grow bigger than I did last year, great. That's fun. If I grow a state record or even and get a world record, great. That's awesome. But I try to stay away from it, and I try to remember why I started growing. The reasons I started growing was to make memories with my kids, to challenge myself and have fun. Right. And I try to stick to that now. Because like I said, the competitive side of it does get so ugly that, I don't like that part. So I like to grow, have fun. And if records come, that's great. And if they don't, it's okay. I learn from it, but I've grown 30 some pound rutabagas. At one time I held the state or the world record for butternut squash at 83 pounds, 1 ounce.
Wow.
Yeah.
For a butternut. That's
right. And then I had another world record that I had in 2022 was growing the most giant varieties in one season successfully at 37, I think or 36. I have 3 world records, 38 state records. And like I said, it's just all fun. I'm going to try to bust 60 pound for rutabaga this year. I don't know if it'll happen or not. I've had some good starts going, and there's some feral cats in the neighborhood, and they've come to use my raised beds for their litter box. And so they've dug up a couple good starts, and I'm hoping that they'll leave and vacate soon and stop digging my stuff up. But or I might have to try to figure out something to keep them out of there. But yeah, we're going to try to bust 60 pounds on a rutabaga this year. I grew a 36-inch long carrot last year, so I'm going to try to break that. Smart Pots built me a Smart Pot container solely for the purpose of breaking the world record of 21 foot, I think is what the world record is. They built me one at 22 foot. So I'm going to try to break the world record for a carrot at 22 foot long.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That'll be something to see.
Yeah.
Now, as far as cats go, the thing I've found that works for all my beds is to keep them heavily mulched in I use leaf mulch.
Okay.
So I make sure I have a couple of inches of leaf mulch on all of anywhere there's just open soil, because that's what they want. They want that open soil, and they're digging in there, and they do that. Once I cover all of that, they don't want to dig into leaves. To them, that just doesn't work for them.
You know what's weird to me though is my whole yard is pretty much tilled up right now.
Yeah.
And they'll run, and the beds are just kind of sporadic, and they'll miss large swaths of land that they could just go and do whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
And they'll find that little spot in my raised bed and just heap a mound up, right? And it's
I swear they know what they're doing. They do know what they're doing. I got cats. I grow on alleyways, and I have cats. In fact, my cat's sleeping in the other room right now. And that's one of the things though too, is I don't know, do you own any cats of your own, or are these we got 2 cats here that are ours. Oreo, he does not mess with ours at all. He is a super cool cat. He's only 2 years old, and he's only 4 inches tall, you know. He's super, super tiny cat, but he don't mess with anything. And then Willow, she doesn't mess with anything either. They actually use the gardens, the big garden spots to do their thing. But the feral ones run around the neighborhood. They just come in the yard and use my raised beds. So. Yeah. Sometimes it works, having for me, my cats usually, for the most part, keep other stray cats, they'll come through, but they'll, it's territory, and they're like, boom, get out of my territory. So they usually keep pretty good guard of the alleyway when it comes to the stray cats. But this last winter, we had this black tuxedo looking cat come through as a stray, and my cat befriended him. It's like one of the, he's usually chasing every cat off, scuffling with them and all of that sort of stuff. He's usually pretty protective of his territory. But this last year, he befriended one of them that came through, and I actually had to take some extra strategies to get him moved on, because he was messing with some of my other garden beds, and that just doesn't go for me too much. Other than that, it's they go back to the same spot usually. So, utilizing things like cinnamon or some peppermints and things like that. So
they don't want to smell.
Or just go get some chopsticks from the Panda Express or something, and poke those in the ground all around it. Because if you just create it where it is, and then they'll move on somewhere else, but then you just got to watch out for where they move on to, because they might find another spot. That just
reminded me. I seen a thing a couple months ago. Now I'm glad you said that. They had stuck plastic forks.
I see that too. You just got to make it to where it's not comfortable for them to squat, and they're out of there, man. They're not going to do it. And hopefully you can move them to a spot that's okay.
Right.
But sometimes they'll move to another garden bed. You got to do it all over.
I would be so fine.
You just move them on until they get to a spot you're okay with.
Because I got an acre pretty much that's tilled up, right? And I would be so good if they just went and used any part of the acre except for the 15 raised beds that's in my yard, So, but they won't use none of that. They use everything else. So I think the fork thing, I'll try that out.
Yeah, definitely. Right on. So what are some of these other things you're growing in that garden you got going? You've been able to get out and get things started up yet in West Virginia?
So I've been working on some stuff the past couple of years. Every year without fail, I plant way too early. I start way too early, right? I'll start peppers in December or January, and then it'll be cold in May, and then I won't be able to put them out till June. And and the pepper plants will have flowers on them. Some of them will have peppers on them, and then you transplant them, and they're trying to grow flowers and peppers instead of growing plant. And then you got to pick all that off of there. And I said, you know what? I'm going to try something different this year. I'm going to hold off. I'm going to fight all the urges to plant early, right? And I'm going to plant 6 to 8 weeks before my last frost date and see what we get going on like that. Well, it's about a month before. Well,
Yeah.
no, it was probably about 6 weeks before the last frost date when I planted everything. And so
Right.
now we've got everything. You know, they're little itty bitty things growing and stuff. And I'm like, oh, I've really messed up. But what I tried indoors this winter, just playing with it, was a new soil mix that I made. Right. So I used
Yeah.
Fox Farm Happy Frog. I used a bag of potting soil. I used Azos, Mycos, and Versity from Extreme Gardening, and a bag of biochar from Wakefield Biochar. Right, I mixed all those things together, and in a wheelbarrow, and my grow was really good. Like everything come up and took off. So I was like, okay, I think with this mix, because I tried other things too, but that one was the fastest, right? Like, I mean, I'm talking within 2 weeks, I had total root formation in these trays and stuff that I get from Epic, and like they were like the big 4 cell trays, and they were completely formed in there like a month old plant, right? Or even longer. And I'm like, okay, this is going to work out. And so I did that, and lo and behold, I went out there the other day, and the pumpkin plants have only been up for like 3 days, and there's already roots coming out of the smart pots. All right.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, this is going to work, you know? So everything's doing good. They're looking good. I think that new mix is perfect.
Yeah.
The problem with what I would get with Happy Frog when I would only use it was too hot by itself. Right. And some things could handle it and some things couldn't. And now that I mixed it with that extra potting soil and, a little bit, and that biochar kind of dampened down that mix a little bit. So now everything's it's just taken off. It's full of life. It's full of bio, stimulants, your Mycos, Azos, and Versity. So there's lots of life going on in there, and it's looking good. So I'm fairly happy and excited with what we're going to be able to grow this year.
Timing's everything, man.
Yeah, it is. It really is. So in terms of giants and even regular garden stuff, everything's looking really good. We're going to switch up some things this year, change it up a little bit, and where I plant things at. Normally, I'm going to switch that up and plant in different areas in the yard and see if I don't get better results there. So I'm taking kind of a risk because I've never grown, in these areas for giants. I've only grown garden vegetables and stuff. So, but without risk, there's no reward. So we're going to try some different things out and see if it don't play to our advantage, and see if we can't squeak out a few more state records. Because I'd like to get the state record cantaloupe, watermelon, tomato, and green squash this year.
Yeah. Let's see here. Kind of goes in lines. We got a question from Serena came in just a little bit ago. Do you have clay soil? And if so, what do you amend it with for gardening, or do you just use raised beds?
So I do have clay soil. It's heavy clay soil. And what I have found is I'll be honest with you, it's not perfect yet. And it eats up tons of organic matter. It doesn't matter how much organic matter I've put in there: compost, leaves, grass clippings, all kinds, even cover crops. It eats it all up, right? So I've got very, very heavy clay. But I use a lot of gypsum, and gypsum over time will kind of loosen that clay up, separate those molecules. Use a lot of compost. Be careful using compost. The different types of compost, you can get your phosphorus way too high with using compost. So you got to watch that. But grass clippings, leaf mulch, compost, sand, or not fine sand. Stay away from fine sand. Fine sand is definitely. You want to use coarse, coarse sand to where you can almost like see pebbles in it, right? The coarser, the better. So use things like that breaks up those molecules. Clay is not your enemy. Clay can be your friend. You just have to figure out how to make it friendly for your plants, because clay holds on to water and clay holds on to nutrients. And so when you get it perfect, when you get that clay balanced out right to where it's nice, good till, you've got a really good soil to grow in.
Yeah. And when it comes down to it, just good organic gardening practices, are the best way to go. Organic material, compost, organic material, feed that clay soil, those sort of things, and you'll create that balance that you're talking about.
And broad forking helps tremendously.
Yeah, kind of open that up a little
Yep.
bit. That's awesome. Awesome, man. Well, let's see here. We only got a couple minutes left real quick. I did just kind of want to mention though too, you had a really big guest on your show not too long back, and it's one of those things that I just wanted to kind of highlight here while I'm talking to you too, as everybody sees at the top of the screen there. One of the big things about my channel and our show is about building community through gardening and connecting people and doing those sort of things in
Absolutely.
our gardening community. And I was really excited to get a message from you just a while back ago telling me that you got a hold of our good friend here on our channel. I mean, he's become a really great friend of mine, John Kohler from
Yes.
growingyourgreens.com. Tell me about how that interview was for you on your channel.
I have, you came on, and whenever I got you on my channel, I was like, yes, I got Enoch Graham to come on. I was super excited, and we were talking, and I thought, do you think I can get John on? Hey, just message him, write him, see what you can do. And I write him, and there was no response. I wrote him back again, nothing. And about 2 weeks later, I get a, yeah, man. And I'm like, oh, he said yes. You know what I mean?
Oh,
it's
man, I'm telling
like,
you.
yeah. And I was just like super pumped. John is such a wealth of knowledge, a super, super cool dude, down to earth. I mean, I was so humbled and honored that he come on and did that with me. We did a 55-minute long interview. Guys, please go check it out if you got time.
Yeah.
Wonderful interview. I mean, it packed full of information, and he's such a cool dude, and he's so knowledgeable about so many different
and
things.
that's not just something that's on online, through his videos or if you see him on your channel and stuff. I'll tell you, in person, I've hung out with John many times. We've done a lot of things together, hanging out, and he's that way in person too. He's a very genuine human being.
Yeah, and you can tell because I've wrote him since then about different things, and when he's got time, he's Johnny on the spot, write me back and say, hey, this is what I got for you. He'll send me links and stuff to it, and I'm like, man, such a great guy, and I'm very thankful that he came on my show. It was awesome.
I remember when I got that message, man. I'll tell you, I was just as excited for you too. I was just like, because I remember what that feeling was like when I first got a hold of the first person to do that. In fact, John did the work actually himself when it came to us doing the first things. But it was Kay Cottrell was the first person one of the first people I got to meet down in Los Angeles when I made my first trip down there. And I remember when she got back to me, and she was one of those big channels I was watching at that time, and just loved what she was doing. And when she me back was like, oh yeah, and let's do a live. She was like, oh wow. And I was like, what? No way. And then John was at his house doing some things with a friend of his. That's how I got to meet him. And he just came up to me. He's like, hey, you got a YouTube channel, right? And I only had like 300 subscribers back then. He just nothing. And yeah, I do. He's like, well, you want to do a video?
That's awesome.
So it was really great. So again, really awesome, really genuine guy, and I'm really glad that happened for you and you were able to get that going for your channel, man. Really,
yes, sir.
It's really great when those things get to happen and we get to connect with each other. Like I said, that's one of my favorite things. There's tons of communities, and you've mentioned this earlier too. It's like, I had pepper guys on for a pepper weekend we did a little while back ago on the show. I had one guy on the Saturday show and one guy on the Sunday show, and come to find out, as I book and find out, the pepper growing community is about as competitive and
very
as it is in the giant growing community as well too. And I found that out in the interactions and the run up to that show and everything. We ended up with great shows, great interviews with Smoke and Ed Curry of creator of Pepper X, and then Johnny Scoville, who's on that new pepper show, Spice or Super Hot, Spicy Life of Pepper People. But that was great. But again, too, that's the case. But I don't find that with the garden community. You know what I mean? Just the general gardening community is one of the best, greatest communities out there, and that's
really,
why I
really
love, and doing what I do and being able to bring people together through this show. So that was really awesome.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Right on. Real quick, last question for you though. Again, too, just let us know a little bit more about what you got going on, what you got coming up, or if there's anything like that you let everybody know about. I will tell everybody real quick though, there are links right down in the description there for Heavenly Hills Homestead. I would love it if everybody went over and subscribed and let them know that you came from the Let's Get Growing show.
Yes, absolutely. And we'd really like to have you guys, and any questions you guys would have for us over there. But every Tuesday night we do our live streams on Tuesday nights, at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We got a lot of great guests lined up, all the way through to September. We're still looking to fill up October through December. So, if there's anybody here or watching later on that would, want to come on, you're a gardener or a grower and you want to come on, just, hit me up at babydrill2119@yahoo.com and we'll get you scheduled for that. Other than that, we're just going to stick to our roots and teach people how to grow and get them excited about growing, right? Growing our own food is vital for us, our children. And let's be honest, it takes away the pressure on all these big ag farmers, right? When you can grow your own food, you're taking pressure off of them guys. And I can't think of any better way to do it than taking pressure off of them and, putting a little bit of food on your own table, right? It's
nothing better than homegrown food.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's what it's about. It's about encouraging people to get out there, get them excited about growing, getting the youth involved. And that's what we're going to do. That's what we're planning on doing. In fact, at the top of the hour, I got to head over and do a seminar for 4-H kids in Hawaii. So,
nice. That's great.
Yeah. So we're going to be doing that. And, like I say, that's what it's about. It's about giving back to the community and trying to grow it.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, too, I really encourage everybody to go and check out Heavenly Hills Homestead and Ryan Cook and all of his videos there. In fact, if you have a channel, like he mentioned there, he did mention an email, but what I think is better, if you have a channel, go leave a comment on one of his videos and let him know. Do that. Say, hey, I saw you on the Let's Get Growing show and I'd love to be on your live stream. Comment that on one of his videos.
Absolutely.
That's what we're doing around here is we're pushing comments.
Absolutely.
Comments. All right, man. That's awesome, Ryan. Again, too, hopefully we'll get you back on the show here real soon.
Yes.
You go have some fun with all those 4-H kids and go teach them some really great things about growing.
Yeah, you guys, thank you again for having me on. You and Destin have a great time, and I'm going to catch you guys later and rewatch this so I can catch what you guys talk about.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
You have a great time, and say hi to your family for me.
I sure will, and you say hi to yours.
You got it. Thanks.
Bye.
Hey, gardeners. Thanks for tuning in to our show today. We'll be right back at it here in just a moment. I just wanted to take a second here to highlight our regular videos and features here on the Urban Gardener channel. Our weekly garden journals, and our incredible featured visits.
The answer to this week's trivia question is A. Marigolds are commonly planted with tomatoes because they have similar growing conditions. They attract pollinators, and they can even repel pests. In fact, marigolds are scientifically proven to repel nematodes, which are pest insects that burrow into the roots and stems of tomato plants, disrupting their flow of nutrients and water. Thanks for watching. Be sure and head over to Sarah's Seed Shop, where you can find garden seeds at unbeatable prices. Enjoy the rest of the show.
All right. What a great discussion there with Ryan Cook from Heavenly Hills Homestead. And again, go and check out that channel with the link down below and go leave him a comment. And if, again, like he said, if you want to be on a show, go do that. Go leave him a comment. Let him know. Say, hey, I'd love to be on your live stream. That would be awesome. Again, too, that's one of the things like I talk about, we love about doing this show and being able to have this format and everything, is to be able to, you know, bring all these great gardeners together. And like I said, building community through gardening. And, you know, we've got just an amazing, amazing gardening community. So let's see here. We've got it. NJ Callie Gardner and family joining with us here. Awesome, man. Great to see you. Thanks for coming in. And Rob says, great guest. Jersey Girl with some applause for us there. And Grow at Alaska saying, have a good one, Ryan. Yeah, Ryan's an awesome guy. Great channel. Hope you guys go and check that out. Awesome. All right. All right. Let's see here. I think it's about time for our featured guest.
You never know when you might learn something, and that's what this is about for me. These are people that I admire. Please welcome my next guest.
All right, all right. Joining us down from the great state of Texas, we've got Destin Noak, the Texas garden guy, with us here today. How awesome, man. Great to see you. How you doing, Destin? Oh, let's see here. We got you. I better unmute. I'm sorry. Real quick here. You got the mute.
I think I muted myself. Sorry about that.
Oh,
Are we good now? We're good.
Problem. I was like, oh no, did I mute him?
Yeah, I didn't want y'all to catch any stray farts while I wasn't like in the background or anything like that.
Awesome. What a great start. Well, Destin, thank you so much for coming and joining with us here on the Let's Get Growing show. It's so awesome to have you here. I've been really enjoying your live streams over on your channel. And again, everybody, there's links down below for everybody to go check out that. Destin does a really cool live stream with multiple people called the Garden Party Podcast.
Yes.
And you know, one of the things, real quick before we really get you to introduce yourself, one of the things I think I really love about what you do with your show is you started off with the guitar and you play your own intro. I mean, I think that's one of the coolest things, man.
Well, I don't have the production value that you have. Like, I've been noticing like all the swipes and everything. I'm like, man, right. I need a producer on my show or something, because if I knew how to like play the recorded version at the beginning, I would. It's just easier for me to play it myself. So one day we'll grow up and get some production value, I guess. I need to step my game up a little bit after watching this.
Well, no, I think what you do is great. I think that's something you need to keep. Even if you do figure out all the other side stuff and do all the fun stuff that we can do with these sort of things nowadays, you got to keep that playing that fun little live intro.
Well, and my co-host, Phil's Figs, plays ukulele. So I think next episode, he's going to do the intro and let me take a week off. So it's going to be fun.
There we go. Oh, absolutely. I'm looking forward to that for sure. Yes. All right. Real quick, in case anybody in our audience doesn't know who you are right now, why don't you give us a quick introduction and let us know where you are?
Well, I'm Destin Noak, Texas garden guy. I am just south of Houston, Texas. I am the Texas garden guy, so I'm from Texas. I'm an Air Force veteran, and when I got out of the Air Force, I was kind of lost. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I went through some marriage issues and stuff like that, and kind of started fresh, right out of the Air Force. And the one thing that kind of gave me some solace and some peace and stuff was that my dad had started a garden. And so I got out there and was helping him till it out one day. A couple weeks later, we're picking, sugar snap peas and stuff like that. And it just, made me feel like I was accomplishing something. Kind of gave me some strength back, after everything I've been through. And so when I, met my wife and we bought a house, the thing I was focused on the most is my backyard. Is it a blank canvas where I can start, and do whatever I want with? And she said, go wild. And it's gone from, some DIY wooden beds to like 10 metal beds and like 20 something fig trees. Right. And just, it seems like every year I get into a new variety of plant that I'm hoarding. Last year it was plumerias and desert roses, and it's just been a journey, man. And the content's just the cherry on the top. I love what I'm doing. I love doing it. It's just so much fun.
Yeah. I love that story. So was that your first experience with the garden at all? I mean,
And
really?
my grandmother had grown up in Florida, and she worked in nurseries like her whole life, and so she was big into like plumerias and like tropical things. But it wasn't
Mhm.
something like, it's almost like when you're young, you don't want to do what your parents are trying to get you to do, and then later on in life you figure out, oh, I actually enjoy doing this. It was one of those things that I just didn't pay much attention to as a kid, and then I found so much strength and peace in doing it later on in life.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the thing. And I mean, I kind of, I got a little bit of that and felt a little bit of that when I was doing houseplants. I've done houseplants from when I was a young kid into my adult life, but it wasn't until I was in my late 30s that I discovered growing my own food. And it was one thing to kind of discover growing my own food and being able to grow something different outside of the house, you know what I mean, than all of the stuff that I did inside of the house. But it was that next thing that happened that really solidified my garden passion as I'm getting out there and in similar things, going through life issues. Life throws us just some crap sometimes, if I can say that,
Oh yeah.
and that's what I found. And I find that so interesting about most people's garden stories is that, there's a love for growing things that gets established, but it's really that sense of like help we get from the garden
Oh yeah.
through
It's definitely therapeutic. It's
that's
therapeutic
the
being
word
out
I'm
in the
looking
garden.
for. Thank you.
Yes.
Therapeutic. Yeah, so that's really cool and that's great.
Yeah, and then I think the pandemic and everything really increased everybody's,
Hmm.
the desire to start gardening and growing anything
Yeah.
is just gone like crazy. Nobody thought in 2018 that you wouldn't be able to go out to the store and find toilet paper. You know what I mean?
Right.
Imagine if we couldn't find bread. Imagine if you couldn't find tomatoes. Imagine if you couldn't find, corn. Like, and I think a lot of people's eyes got opened up to the fact that, like, hey, maybe I can't grow everything, but I like tomatoes. So let me start growing tomatoes. Like, at least grow this. That's one thing you don't have to buy at the store.
Right. Yep, exactly. And that's, really what it comes down to is we get all of this stuff from gardening, like you said, the therapeutic, the activity, all of that sort of stuff. But then in the long run, what we get ultimately is this really great food that we grew ourselves and that sense of self-empowerment that we give ourselves by being able to do that. It's just great.
No, I love it. And the one of the common misconceptions about gardening is that people get into gardening to save money.
Right.
I'm going to tell people. I'm going to tell you right off the bat.
Yeah.
If you're trying to grow your own tomatoes to save money, I mean, maybe you're doing it in 5-gallon buckets, or if you're doing it in the ground, that can save money as well. But like 99% of the time, you're not saving money by growing your own tomatoes. You're doing it because you want a higher quality of food, and you want that like a therapy of taking care of that tomato plant.
Yeah. Yeah, gardening can be, it can get spendy. That's for sure. There are some good tactics. Like you said, we do a lot of small space gardening, utilizing containers and things like that in order to. And I am one of those penny pitchers. So I'm always looking for things. My big thing this year is finally, after years of wanting to get one started, I finally started my own worm bins.
Nice.
So I'm growing, I call it growing my own worm castings now. And this is, again, something that we can do. I mean, I'm saving money now because now I'm going to be able to replace a lot of the feeding that I would buy as other fertilizers on my food plants with worm casting teas that I'm going to be able to make in order to feed them with too. So there's strategies and things we can do to save a little bit of money. But ultimately, gardening, like I said, it can be spendy, especially new gardeners. And this is one of the things I also warn people to, if you're a new gardener and all of that, is watch out for those plants that you buy, because a lot of people go to plant starts and all that sort of stuff. Stay away from Bonnie starts and those sort of things, man.
Oh my goodness. I was at my brother-in-law's house, and he had a very wealthy neighbor who had just had his pool re-landscaped, and it was really nice and beautiful. But he took me over there and he was like, "You're the Texas garden guy, right?" And I was like, "Well, on the weekends, yes." And he was like, "Why am I not getting any peaches or pears or anything?" Well, I tell him, like, "Well, what variety of pear and peach do you have?" And he goes, "Well, I don't know. I went to Walmart or Lowe's and picked up a pear." And I was like, "That's your mistake right there, because Walmart and Lowe's, Lowe's is getting a little bit better, but most of these big box stores, they're selling peach trees, they're selling pear trees, apple trees that don't necessarily work in your area."
Yeah, they don't care.
No, they don't. So, like, your best bet is to go to a local nursery, a small nursery with people who are depending on their reputation to get you to come back to buy more plants from them, and they will sell you, fruit trees that require, have the right amount of chill hours in your area. The big box stores are not a place to get your fruit trees unless you know exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah, and this comes back down to, and also, when we're talking about how much a garden costs. Yeah, it might be cheaper to go to that big box store, but spend that extra money and go to a local nursery, go to a local place, get, like you said, somebody who really depends on you having some success with what you're buying from them, because it's something that bothers me so much. And I go through the big box stores to see what's there, see what's available, those sort of things.
Are you a clearance shopper?
Sometimes, I will. Definitely, I'm looking for, plants I can resuscitate sometimes, things like I go into rescue some plants, maybe, more the house plants and things. But there's several times I've gone in and I've had to, like, tell people, like, hey, you don't want to buy that. Like, one example really was a lady who was and she was getting like about 7 or 8 of these, and they were just and it was as they were like dinging them across the scanner, ding ding, and I looked at it, I'm like, they're literally lettuce. They were like a Merlot lettuce that was going to seed, so they had stalks that were this tall, and they're literally selling these to this lady. And I was like, whoa, I'm sorry. I was like, and I told the lady, I was like, really, you want to have them take those back. Don't put those in your garden, not unless you're looking to save seeds. Those are not going to give you anything, and I had to give her that warning. But she was about to spend probably about $30 or more on lettuce that was not going to produce anything. And this is the problem with buying from big box stores like that. You have to be very beware, because they don't care. They just want money.
Well, especially, like, I'm always the Ron Swanson in the Lowe's Garden Center. I'm always like, they ask me for help, like, no, I know more than you. I can figure it out. Now, I had this very similar situation happen with a lady. I forget what she was buying, but she was buying these shrubs, and she had like a whole cart of them. And I asked her, I was like, hey, what area are you buying this for? How big of an area are you trying to cover? And she was like, oh, it's just this 10 by, and I was like, you need like 3 tops. I was like, because that's just going to fill up your entire area. You don't need that many. Just plant 3 and give it a year, And she was like, oh, thank you. And it's little things, it's little things you try to help people out, save them some money. And, and then I usually tell them, hey, go to my buddy Jorge's Hidden Gardens too. It's like 10 minutes down the road,
Yeah. There you go. And then there you go. Recommend some people if you know some too as well. And that's just great. Yeah, but that's what we got to do, man. We got to be looking out for each other. And, some of us more experienced gardeners really got to be looking out for those who are just getting into this whole thing, because we know the value. We know what it gives us and all of that. They're just getting in. And that poor lady would have got home and planted those out, ended up having nothing, would have been kind of disappointed. And I just hope that, she stuck with her gardening and all of that sort of stuff, or anybody who's in that situation doesn't get dissuaded by it, because that's the big thing. Like you said, it costs a bunch of money and you don't get anything out of it. Why are you going to come back to it?
Exactly.
So, we got to be keeping an eye out for that stuff and be, help those folks who are just getting into this, because we want them in our community. Because like I was saying to Ryan just a little bit earlier, and I always say, we got the best community, out there. Doesn't matter. Gardening community is the best.
I had to Google him because I'm going to be doing his podcast, I believe, in September. And I've been so busy with all the gardening content. And when he's talking about the world records, like, I got to fact check this. And I looked at he literally has a bunch of world records. That's insane. It is crazy. Like, definitely check out Hidden. Well, I forget what it's called though. I can't remember.
The Heavenly Hills
He-
Homestead.
Follow
Yeah.
Heavenly. I will be checking out some of that stuff, and I'm very interested to see some record stuff.
Ryan's a great guy, man. Really awesome. That's great.
For sure.
We had a great time talking with him on his live streams as well too. And another thing too, Ryan was mentioned. I don't think we did get to touch on with Ryan as well much, but also Big Will Dog just put this in just a minute ago too, saying that he's a U.S. Air Force guy himself here as well. So I've got a kind of a military thing going on today. Not myself. My family is, though. Like almost everybody besides me did some service in the military.
Well,
and thank you for your service. Ryan was a Marine as well, too. So
nice. Well, Big Will actually asked a question earlier in the chat about birds getting to his tomatoes and stuff. I was paying attention, and I'm gonna be posting a video on my Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff today. But I actually got into these organza bags, and if you don't know what organza bags are, they're these little mesh bags that they use at like weddings to throw rice or what bird seed now, I guess. But they have a little drawstring. You can put. I use them for like my figs and my tomatoes. And when I noticed a fig or a tomato is getting ripe, I just go put it around it and tighten it up. And then and I have found that although a bird could peck right through this, just the annoyance alone will deter them. And you can get these on Amazon, and they're reusable. They're totally. I reuse them every time. They make, and they also make. I found this year like an 8x12, so I can do a whole thing of cherry tomatoes.
Oh, nice.
These organza bags will deter the birds away. I won't say they'll 100% keep them out.
Right. But it's a good deterrent. And that's kind of the thing, is mostly just trying to deter, move them along. And like I said, kind of make things not easy for them. That's kind of going on the lines we were talking about with cats earlier as well, too. Those bags, though, too, are also really good for another thing, too, is isolation. Now, if you're, if you're looking to isolate fruits or hand pollinate any of your own fruits, and this is something really for really works well with peppers.
Yeah.
So, I like to grow, and this is something I don't really do, and I probably should give it a try a little bit, but I grow tons of peppers, all different varieties, and they're all growing all around each other. So I don't save seeds,
Right.
So, and that's one of the things I tell people. If you're growing all sorts of varieties, I don't save seeds. I just get new seeds every year. But if you do want to save seeds, you want to try to isolate just so you can be sure.
Yeah.
That's a big thing if you're growing them all together. And those little bags are great for that. So you get in there and you hand pollinate the flower real quick as it's forming too. You want to isolate it before it forms. But as it starts to open up, then you go and hand pollinate it, close it back up, and then you've got a nice isolated pod there, and you can save those seeds.
Absolutely. I wish I saved more seeds. It's just so much effort. It can be done easily, I know, but I've got
some varieties are easy and some aren't.
Like okra. Okra is one of the easiest things to save seeds from. You let one pod grow, crazy big, and then you save it and you have seeds forever. But like peppers and tomatoes, I tend to just get new seeds every year. Seeds aren't, they've gotten more expensive. They're not that expensive, most of the time.
My tomatoes I don't worry too much about, but I do have like the ones I do. There's only a couple of varieties I actually save seeds from, but they're kind of isolated in the spaces that I have, because I have these spaces that are all kind of in different spots and stuff. So they're okay. So I don't worry about the tomatoes that much, except for the ones that are all growing right by each other and right next to each other, and they're all kind of like intertwined together and everything. Those I wouldn't mess with much either. But yeah, it's just, getting the more variety too. I only got a couple of varieties that I grow each and every year. And then I like to grow a ton more new varieties each and every year. So that I'm always trying new things and getting to have new stuff. And that's part of the fun of growing and gardening though, right?
Right. I'm not a spicy eater, but I grow a lot of spicy peppers. My wife makes pepper jelly. She makes pepper jelly, and we also dehydrate a bunch of peppers for pepper powder. So we dehydrate it, grind it up, and put it like in a pepper shaker.
That's the way to go if you don't like hot peppers.
Oh my God. It's just a little bit of it in my chili is enough for me. It'll just ruin my whole weekend.
But you can regulate it good with the powder though. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's about being able to regulate it a little bit. But
Yes.
yeah, I always recommend powders and all of that. I don't, I've had, like I said, I had Smoking Ed Curry on the show
I saw that.
few weeks back and talking about the new world record holder Pepper X,
Oh
the
my
Carolina
God.
Reaper. I would never touch. I'd never do any of those sort of things. In fact, the Saturday before we had Johnny Scoville on, and he's known for eating like platefuls of these super hots, and doing these pepper competitions. That's just insane.
Have you watched the documentary on Netflix? I forget what it was called. It was called
Hulu.
Was it on Hulu?
Right?
Okay.
Hulu Super Hots, the spicy life of pepper people, or is it a different one?
So it was a different documentary on Netflix.
Okay.
It was a series, and the series was of weird competitions. And one of the
Oh, cool.
episodes was on the pepper eating competition, and it
Okay.
was insane how I was sweating watching the show. It's
Mhm.
just it's run by Ed. It's so nuts.
Yeah. There's a couple of different ones that are really great that do some really fun competitions. There's one they highlight, and again, too, if you have the opportunity to check out the Hulu show, Super Hots, the Spicy Life of Pepper People. It's all about all aspects of the pepper community and the pepper growing, pepper eating competitions. And what is the Chili Queen is her name? I'm trying to remember what her actual name is, but the Chili Queen from UK. And I don't know if she's hit it yet, but in the show they were talking about how she was reaching almost 100 competitions in a row that she has won. I mean, she can eat in the show too. They show her eating. She competes against like this whole like college class, like 15, 20 kids in this college class, like her versus all of them. And she beat every one of them. They went through all of them, and she was still eating. I can't understand that.
The one Jay just put it in the comments is Netflix. We Are the Champions, and it's a bunch of different competitions, and it's narrated by Rainn Wilson from The Office. Dwight. He is the.
Oh yes, I love Rainn Wilson.
Yes.
Okay, I'm definitely gonna go check that out after the show.
Yeah, it's good. There's a lot of crazy competitions. It's like Ryan was saying, people who are into like pumpkin growing competitions, like if there's like something to brag about, people are competing for it. That's so
right. They are very competitive. Yes, definitely, and in any, like you said, in any sort of competitive things, and that doesn't even that's outside the garden. Anytime you got some sort of competition, it just kind of people are vying to take each other out, and they can call and we know how that goes. But that's why I like that the kind of the garden community doesn't have really too much to be competitive about. You know what I mean?
It can
a little bit. There's little bits there here and there, but
so whenever you get up to so I've got my nursery and floral license here in the state of Texas. Yeah. And so, nurseries will compete. So I am technically a nursery because I sell my own fig trees. I don't have that many here, but the Texas Department of Agriculture can show up at any moment and want to inspect my stuff, and look and see, make sure I'm doing safe practices and everything like that. So nurseries can be a little bit competitive, but individual gardeners, like me and my dad brag about who grows the most squash, but that's about it.
Yeah. I know. It was like I tried. I was in actually this national competition by this company, and it ended up going defunct during the middle of the whole thing and all that sort of thing. So it wasn't the best experience, but it was my only time trying to compete when it comes to gardening and all of that. And I reached out to the biggest pumpkin grower I could find to get pumpkin seeds and tomatoes. I was competing and all of that sort of stuff. And, yeah, it was fun. I know I would have won that contest too, though.
What is, because here in the South, in Texas, we don't grow giant pumpkins, just like that. I guess that's a more northern thing. I'm sure someone does here in Texas.
Yeah.
But I'm sure someone does, but it's just not as common. I see more giant pumpkins and maybe giant watermelons and stuff down here. Make more sense.
Yeah, watermelons for sure in the South.
Y'all just don't get the heat. Y'all don't get as much of the heat because I didn't know you were in Oregon. That's crazy.
Yeah.
When is your last frost date?
My last frost date here, I believe on the calendar says something like May 15th.
Oh my God, it's so crazy.
I know you've done past yours. You've been
for 2
growing
months.
ain't no big deal. Yeah. Leave a and I'm kind of in the middle too. So there's still people who are still more northern who are looking even at me going, "Oh man, you're ahead of me. I can't wait." That's kind of the something about it. All of us more northern gardeners look to you and you guys in the south going, "Man, we just want to do it. You guys are ahead of the game all the time."
Well, we have our own problems too.
Yeah, well,
There's a 2 or 3 month stretch in Houston where all we can grow is eggplants, peppers, and okra. It's
just getting too hot, huh?
too hot for anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What is your growing zone? What is your zone?
Our zone, through the zone changes, we didn't change. I'm zone 8B.
Oh
But
wow.
8B again, those zones are just so they from one climate or one area to the next. I mean, an 8B here in Southern Oregon is gonna be totally different than an 8B, like say over on the East Coast or anywhere else throughout the country and all of that. So we all have different last frost dates and all that sort of stuff. But we have that, like I was saying, we get some really nice cooking summers ourselves though.
Yeah, it's all relative. Like when I was in the Air Force, I was stationed in Anchorage, Alaska. I was there for 4 years, and
Nice.
and Anchorage isn't even as bad as like going further north in Alaska, because you have that warm air coming off the ocean. So like you have a little bit of humidity to kind of break down the cold a little bit. So it's all relative, really, like where you're at. I mean, your body gets accustomed, and cold is different, hot is different, no matter where you go.
That's right. That's awesome. Up in Anchorage there, I actually lived south of Anchorage in my high school years in a little town called Kasilof, Alaska, south of Soldotna, Kenai.
I know exactly where that's at. Yeah.
Yeah. I went to high school there in that area. That was something else, man.
Yeah, we used to drive down to Seward and like for spring breaks like that, and drive through that tunnel and everything. Seward is like this, like I guess say spring break town, kind of like it's
a getting away from the city kind of thing, because in Alaska, I more so than like other cities, I think maybe people in Anchorage feel a little more trapped in.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Than like a lot of other cities and stuff. So getting out of town is always something. And because I remember I had a couple of family members. We lived more southern, but they lived up in Anchorage because they wanted to live in the city. They were like, we're not living out in the country like that, but they would always be coming down and always visiting, trying to get out of the city.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I mean, Anchorage has grown like crazy too. And I mean, I'm glad I got out when I got out, because I might not have never left. It's one of those things like, it'd be so easy just to start a new life in Alaska.
But I've been a little over 20 years though since I've been up there, so I bet it has grown a lot.
Oh yeah, it's been 13 years for me. It's been a while, so I'd love to go back though.
Yeah. I mean, having lived there and had that experience when I was younger, and it's like when you live in places when you're younger, it's like, get me out of here, I can't wait to go.
Yes.
So every now and then I'm like, man, I do kind of miss it up there a little bit, but I just I would rather be in Texas.
Texas is
than
awesome.
Alaska, because I like the heat. I like to be warm, and those winters I got to spend in Alaska were just a bit too much for this guy.
Yeah, I live vicariously through a YouTube channel called Simple Living Alaska.
Yeah,
and I love that channel, and so I get enough. I feel chilly when I watch the channel, and so like I'm good. Like I don't need to. I don't think I'll ever move back up there. But it seems like everybody's got the same idea here lately. It's like, let's move to Texas. Let's move to Texas. Let's do it.
Yeah. Texas is blowing up. Us here in Southern Oregon are though too.
Yeah.
Like we're really like just everything's blowing up here. They can't build things fast enough right now.
Oh yeah, it's insane right now. It's so crazy. When I moved in this subdivision, we're the only subdivision in the within 10 miles. And now that in the last 6 or 7 years, there's probably we're completely surrounded, and nobody knows what I have in my backyard, my greenhouse, and all my plants. And I'm just praying for I'm praying that the winds don't knock my fence down, and all my neighbors will see what I have.
Right. Is your fence tall enough too?
It's just barely.
Just barely, right?
Yes, just barely.
Right on. That's awesome. So let's see here. Let's dig into this garden you've got growing. What are these some of your favorite things you've got growing in your garden? What are these things that you really love to grow?
Yeah, so I mean, I got the staple, the early spring staples. We've got the early girl tomatoes. I'm doing a lot of cherry tomatoes. I did a collaboration with a company called Tink Tube, and they make like these kits where it's like a erector set to make like a tomato trellis, or you can do whatever you want with them. And I made this giant tomato trellis over my 2 raised garden beds this year. And so I'm going to have some gold nugget cherry tomatoes climbing all the way over. It's going to be awesome. Got the peppers, the squash. Ryan was talking about transplanting and growing his seeds in those trays for his pumpkins. I have not always had the best success with seed starting my squash or pumpkins or cucumbers.
Me either.
I've found the last couple of years that direct seeding, because of that tubular structure, it just doesn't always translate the best. They seem like a little more fragile. Is that the same way you feel?
Yeah, that's the way I feel too. I've done the same thing. I've tried over and over again, trying to create my own transplants and do that stuff. And mostly too is try to get a head start a little bit. Now, I did too. I was on Gardner Scott. I don't know if you know the Gardner Scott channel. I was on his channel. He's got a great channel. He's literally like my go-to guy for garden. If I need to know something, if I've got a question, I go ask Gardner Scott. And I was on his live stream with him this last Monday that he did. And one of the things he was talking about is, we can try to take the effort to get ahead of things. Some things work and some things work really well. I've got a ton of peppers just right over here growing indoors, getting a good head start for them. I've got my tomatoes growing. Those are great. Get a nice little head start for them. But when it comes to curcubits, when it comes to those sort of things, they don't like to be transplanted. They don't like the roots to be messed with, is really what it is. So it's really tough to try to not, pull them out of a pot or something like that. Or even if you're doing soil blocks, peeling them apart from each other still is kind of some messing with the roots a little bit. And I just it took them longer to get rolling, get going and all that sort of stuff. I found I was getting less fruit at that point. And the thing that Scott was saying is that you don't want a head start on that stuff.
Right.
Because if you're direct seeding and you're direct seeding at the right time with the right soil temperature, that plant is going to get its best start.
Correct.
And then it's going to keep going. You're not going to mess with them roots at all. So therefore it's not going to have any stunt period or anything like that. So you're actually getting ahead of the game by direct sowing than you are by trying to start your own transplants. So that's really something that I've learned over the last season or two, and that's just the way I go now. And I was talking about that at the beginning of the show too, is that I can't wait. We're going to wait till closer to June, and then we'll start putting those in.
Yeah, and not that you shouldn't try new techniques. I'm the same dummy that tries the same thing every year. I say I'm not going to start cucumbers, and I did a tray of them, but I did them too early. And they were too long and leggy trying to transplant, and they just didn't do well. Another thing that I started doing this a couple years ago, and each year is different. So every year is different. I can tell you that, 1 year my squash did this on this date, but the next year maybe wetter, maybe hotter, maybe colder. So each year is different. Each year gardening is a new adventure.
Yes, it is.
And so I've been trying my best to save my hot peppers in containers and get a head start on the next year. I tried to overwinter them in my greenhouse.
Yeah.
And every year I have a different success rate. This past year wasn't great. I had almost like a 20% success rate. I mostly grow my peppers in 3 to 5 gallon containers, put them in, I prune them back, put them in the greenhouse. And I've had up to 50% success rate before. And everybody that grows peppers in the chat knows that the hotter the pepper, the slower it grows, it seems like. So if you can even get, a head start on a couple peppers, that's
do you always prune them back when you do that?
Out of necessity, I have to.
It's a necessity. You have to.
Yeah, okay. Just because my greenhouse, people that buy a greenhouse, it's never big enough. The greenhouse is never, just like if you're a hoarder, your house is never big enough. If you're a plant hoarder, your greenhouse is never big enough.
Tell me about it. There's plants on my floor all over the place here.
Yes. Now I went from having no greenhouse to just putting everything in my insulated garage for about 3 years or so. And then I went to a cheap Amazon 15 by 7, greenhouse that every time there's a strong wind, I had to go outside and hold it down, you know. And then I went to a 12 by 20 shelter logic greenhouse, and it's been awesome.
Oh,
But it's
nice.
still not big enough.
Yeah.
I still have a garage full of plants. You know, I'm
Yeah, 'cause I
very
was thinking, you're in that southern area where if like I would imagine that if you didn't cut them back, which would set them back a little bit already as they're moving into winter, and you were able to just let them go from the size they are, you might see a little more success and maybe even get fruits throughout the winter time and all that.
yeah.
Again,
No,
you're talking about space and a ability to do that. Maybe you just pick one and put it in a corner somewhere. Just give it a shot.
right.
See if it works just to test it out.
Absolutely. My buddy Jeremy Trotsky, the Dirty Pump Gardening,
Yeah.
he dug his up, put them in 1 gallon containers, and I think out of 5 he had a couple that made it, but he put them in his basement up there in West Virginia. And he brought them inside into his basement, and they
Yeah.
overwintered there. And so
Yeah. Yeah, if you can get them in the right, get them in a good situation, bringing them indoors. If you want to be careful. I've got so many indoor plants and stuff, so I try not to bring them into my house in some sort of way, unless I've fully washed them down.
yeah,
And when we talk about washing peppers down for overwintering, we're talking about pulling them out of the soil, talking about cutting them back, washing that whole plant down, the whole roots and everything, and then repotting them in some indoor soil or something like that, so you can avoid any sort of outdoor pests getting into your house. I made that mistake.
yeah, and they'll spread. Well, with all those indoor plants, like I have some indoor plants, and I've tried my best, but like, what is your number one method for like keeping like the gnats, for the fungus gnats? Like, what is
Little fungus gnats?
yeah, like what is your best prevention method?
Show you right here, and I get these. They're very, very inexpensive, and they're always all around. And I've
Yep.
got these little guys right here.
Yep.
I'm telling you right here, get these things. You can find these on Amazon. They're very cheap. I think I got like 50 of these for like $5 or something like that. And I put these all around the place. And especially if I'm noticing, I'll get more out, or I'll switch them out because they'll get full of gnats and all of that.
Mhm.
But this is also another thing, because I know someone was talking about vine borers earlier. I was going to pop that question up for you.
Oh yeah.
Real quick, because this was another thing we talked about on Gardner Scott's live stream as well too. Let's see if I've got that on here. Ooh, it might be up there somewhere. Oh, I might have lost it. Oh, anyways, we'll touch on that anyways. The vine borers and any sort of pest, anyways, when it comes down to it, is we're trying to break up their life cycle.
Correct.
Is what it is. That's our main goal in trying to really deal with any sort of thing, is to mess with their life cycle. And with those little yellow sticky traps, it's the adults that come up, and as soon as they come up, they get attracted to it and they get stuck to it. And as soon as they get stuck to it, they can't go reproduce anymore, and they can't lay any more eggs. And therefore, we've now broken that cycle, and that brings them down. But here's another thing. I can have as many of those as I want all throughout my house. I still got them little gnats that'll come around, so I've got to keep them out. I got to try to keep them at bay. I got so many plants, and I try to kind of quarantine before I introduce, but sometimes it doesn't work at all, and you got to be careful also with potting soil you buy.
So
indoor soil, because they're carrying those eggs in them too.
So I've been using soul soils, that chunky mix. They're succulent chunky mix. They're succulent indoor mix. It drains a lot better. I'm watering less. I think like most people are just watering their indoor plants too much. They're watering way too much. For those fungus gnats, I use those little traps like you've got. But I found the ones that had the plugins. They have plugins with like the little purple light. And so it draws them.
I've seen those too.
And you just swap them out. And so like it kind of attracts them to it. But then
you've done those and they're effective?
They are very effective. Just be careful. Just be careful if you got a dog or a cat, because they brush up against it and they get covered in hair. But I've also got.
I have a cat too.
Yeah. Yes. But I've also got bug zapper. I got two indoor bug zappers in my house. And so, and you can get it for like $30 on Amazon, but they are loud. They'll wake you up at night. Like I've been laying in bed now. It's just pop. and I'm like, what is going on?
Oh wow.
I will say that I have used those yellow things out in the garden before. I
Yeah.
don't use them anymore, and I'll tell you exactly why. And y'all probably don't have this problem, but I got lizards in my yard. I have lizards everywhere, and
Yeah.
if a lizard sees something stuck in that trap, they're gonna
Oh,
go, and they've gotten stuck in the trap, and I
up your tongues even.
oh my god, it's so
Whole
bad.
body stuck to them.
Oh, it's so bad, man. So
Oh,
for
man.
for for squash vine borers, what I tell people, and
Yeah,
some
yeah, I was
people
gonna get
don't,
back to that.
yeah, some people don't like it. I use neem oil in the garden. Some
Yeah, yeah.
people, some people are opposed to neem oil, and that's fine. I use organic cold pressed neem oil,
Yeah.
and what you want to do is be preventative. After you see a vine borer moth, it's too
Yeah.
late.
Yeah.
You want to, as soon as my stuff is about this big now, they've sprouted and they're about that big. I'm gonna probably start spraying this Sunday, like late in the evening. I spray
Yeah.
really late in the evening. If the sun is going, if I look at my phone and it says sunsets at 7:30, I'm spraying at 7:15. And I don't have any issues with pollinators, with bees or anything like that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
also take advantage and I mix in like my liquid fertilizer. Like
Mhm.
I use like an organic like seaweed fish emulsion mix, with my neem oil. So not only am I, working on those squash bugs and vine borers, getting the larva hitting that, I'm
Yeah.
also feeding my plants at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. And then there's also another really great thing, and I'm not sure necessarily about its vine borer applications. I don't necessarily deal with vine borer too much. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen one in my area. I'm sure there's folks who do have them. I just haven't had that happen for myself yet, but I hear about it all the time. I will also mention too, you got neem oil, but there's also this, you can see it right here. It's Ivy Organics. That's our sponsor. And
Yeah,
they
I've
have
heard of
this
that.
whitewash spray. It's a completely organic, using oils and like cinnamon oils and mint oils and things like that, and works on tons and tons of pests and things that you can do a similar type of spray around your plants and all that sort of stuff. And and things like neem oil. I try to avoid spraying most everything when it comes down to it. But if we got an issue and we need to tackle it, and if this is really what if it's really going to be the only real course of action that I need to take, I'm going to go for it anyways. I've got neem oil too in my stash, to bust out when I might possibly need it too.
Right, and it's there's definitely other options as well. That's just
Yeah.
that's just my preferred method. I always get the people, they say, "Hey, it's my first year gardening, or this is my second year gardening. Last year I didn't use anything in the garden, and I didn't get one squash, I didn't get one."
Yeah.
And I tell them, I was like, unless you're going to sit out there and hit bugs with sticks, I was like, you're going to have to, think about it. Use what works, and I've tried, I've got some of that or Ivy organic stuff as well. And I love how natural all the natural elements they use in that as well. Neem oil does smell kind of stinky, but you get used to it. I get used to it. I get used to
I mean, it smells bad, but I'll tell you what, do some fish emulsion or something like that. Give that a try and tell me what you think. Oh, you want to talk about something that brings flies from 3, 4, 5 miles around your house to your house? Yeah, yeah. There's one other thing I wanted to mention in the comments real quick too before we get too far away from the little gnats. Big Will Dog was mentioning another thing you can do too. He uses a 1/4 inch of fine vermiculite on the surface to keep them from getting in the soil, creating a nice dry layer.
Wow, okay.
Because they need moisture, and they
Yeah.
need their eggs to be in moisture. So if they're getting in there and they're digging in, like I said, for a little gnat, a 1/4 inch is it's deep for them. So that's going to get them and keep them from avoiding doing that. And you can use other things to create, I was trying to think of like other things that people have used in order to kind of cover it up, like some rocks even and stuff, just to kind of keep them from getting down in there and all of that too. So
yeah, it won't work with people who like buy the self-wicking pots. Like that was a nightmare. I got rid of those so quick because they were attracting it. And then I also tried to grow. I was like, well, if they don't have soil, maybe I'll just grow in Alika, aquaponically, and I had the same problem. I have the gnats. It's just don't water as much, and then like you were saying, use some of that spray inside that. The mint oil does. I do have some mint spray that does
Yeah.
help out as well.
Right on. Yep. Awesome. Let's see. So let's see here. What do we got? We asked about some of the things you got growing, all that. You got anything that you don't like to grow anymore? Right? Things that you just had trouble with? You know what I mean? Something you're just like, you know what? I'm not going to do that anymore.
So I have space issues. I live on I live on a 16th of an acre, and my backyard is like a 32nd of an acre. So I'm very limited on space and what I can do in my backyard. So stuff like garlic and brassicas, like Brussels sprouts that take a long time to grow. I need quick turnover on my beds to get the next thing going. So I don't have enough space to just sit this bed and leave it for like 6 months, for like garlic, stuff like Brussels sprouts. We can only grow Brussels sprouts here in my part of Texas, probably November through like February, and then it starts bolting. It just gets too hot too quick.
And
So
they have a long growing season, so that's just too short of a time for them.
And it's such a bummer because I love Brussels sprouts. Like I eat Brussels sprouts like several times a week. I wish I could grow them, but for it to be worth my while, I would have to grow rows and rows of of Brussels sprouts to make it worth it to me. And I just don't have the space. So
the only way I've succeeded at Brussels sprouts is starting my starts like about now, or as we get closer to summer, and I'll grow the plants, get them as big as I can up to the summertime as we get summer going. And my only thing is I'm just trying to keep them alive.
Yeah,
netting them to keep the moths and the cabbage worms off of them and all that, the aphids that'll start trying to attack them, whitefly. I mean, they're going to be trying to attack by everything. They're so susceptible. I mean, not only do you love the Brussels sprouts, not only do I love the Brussels sprouts, but everything else out there does too. And so my ideal is to try to get them and keep them surviving through this stuff and clean and as much pests off of them and in its best shape as possible through the summertime. And then as soon as it starts to cool down, then they start to take off. Yeah. Then they start to grow and get all new growth. And then I've got those months going into winter, and they'll take some pretty cold temperatures. In fact, when it gets colder is when I notice the little Brussels sprouts start to get fat too, So
yeah, they love the cold. Well, and my friend Jessica from Dream to Seed, she was telling me that when she's growing like her leafy greens and stuff like that, that she will keep the frost cloth on a little bit longer. And it'll block out some of the sun, but you don't have as much pest pressure like in the early spring because she's in Indiana, so she's getting probably started about the same time as you, So yes. Yeah, for sure.
That's where you mentioned Jessica too. I'll just give her a quick forward promo. I was going to talk. I'll mention it a little bit later as well too. Jessica will be on the show next week.
Oh, fantastic!
She's going to be on our first segment of next week's show, so we'll get to meet up with her as well too. That's
awesome. No, she's super.
See how we're all connected, man?
Yeah. Well,
this great community like this. I love it.
You've had Ashley on before. Ashley the Milk Gardener. She is so sweet. She is so cool. Amazing. Yeah, really. She's awesome.
Yeah, it was so cool to talk to her last year. The first conversation we had, it was just I love her book. I love the whole vibe of what she talks about, what she's doing and everything. And the book, I bet you got it right there, huh?
Yeah, I was looking for it.
How to Become a Gardener.
Yeah. Oh, here it is.
Wait, I got it right here.
Yeah, there you go. Boom. Yeah, apparently I need to write a book so I can get on more podcasts. Like that's what I need to do apparently. No.
Right. But yeah. And two, again, as I was mentioning to Ryan earlier, it's great. We get to talk and we do this stuff and we see people on social media and everything. But I also got to meet Ashley in person down in Southern California this last year at the National Heirloom Exposition. And it's just met her and her husband and just as wonderful, awesome people in person as well too, just again too. And again, I don't think I've really interviewed anybody who isn't.
No, for sure. Everybody I've spoke with has been, it's been so nice. With the garden party, we do it every week, and I try to get new people on. I'd love to get you on and get Ryan on as well.
To do it.
I got the inspiration from watching some of my favorite YouTubers doing like weekly panels. They're not in the gardening industry, but they have like, a standard set of people that they have on every week, and they bring in a couple of guests. But, and no one was doing that like on the gardening side. And I had done some podcasting here and there. Doing it in person is tough. Trying to like make everybody's schedule work, and
tell me about it.
and then technical issues. You get there, and you spend an hour or two doing a video, and you find out his mic wasn't turned on the entire time. Like it's just so having stuff like StreamYards, and I use Riverside, but they're both they're ways to communicate with people without having to like drive to them. It's so great. So like I try to get someone on from every region every time, and like you were saying, I haven't met one person that hasn't been like really, really fun and really cool. And, what I have noticed, like in my buddy Jeremy's spot, the Dirty Punk Gardening, he doesn't have like in his area, a community where he can interact with other gardeners. So the only time he gets to like talk to other gardeners, other gardening content creators in particular, is whenever he comes on the podcast. And so like that's I'm lucky that I've got quite a few in my area, but having like, it's nice to have people on and see how excited they are to like just to get to talk gardening for an hour or so. It's so much fun.
You can't just go to a party or hang out somewhere and just start throwing out gardening information and talking. Oh man, you got to see this tomatoes I've been growing, or people are cool. People who don't necessarily garden, they love to see a garden, they love all that sort of stuff. But a lot of what you talk about kind of goes over some folks' head most of the time. So it's good to have garden people together to talk about this stuff.
Oh, for sure. And I tell people, because I do Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Reels, and make YouTube videos, and the podcasting takes the least amount of effort. It doesn't get the most views, but it's the most fun I have all week. Like I have the most fun getting to talk to people, and it's so laid back. I don't have to hardly edit the video at all. I maybe edit out the first 5 minutes and the last 5 minutes, and then it goes up, and it's so much fun. I love it, so I will continue to do it forever. It's
you
so
got
much
the
fun.
nice easy road. Try doing a multi-segment live show.
Yes,
2 days a week with unique guests.
Yes, I will tell people, if you come to the garden party, if you come follow me on YouTube or Facebook or whatever and watch the garden party, it will not be nearly as organized as this. It's a fun chaos. It's a little more
and and I love live streams, and I love especially like what you do and that sort of thing. I like that multiple person type of thing as well too, and that's something we're trying to. We've made a couple of attempts, but we're trying to, as far as our Sunday show, have on certain Sundays garden roundtables, basically, where we can have people and have a group of people and talk about things, people from different places to give different perspectives on things, and I think that's really awesome and great too. One of the things too I mentioned is that when I first started my channel, I was just showing my garden and everything, but really in my mind was I wanted to do things that I was seeing John Kohler do on his channel, was going to visit people in their gardens at their places. And that's kind of where I first got started with interviewing and doing that sort of thing, was going to meet people like Kay Cottrell from Late Bloomer. I got to go visit her, John Kohler, and all sorts of people up and down the West Coast, mostly for me, from LA to Seattle, and getting to do that sort of thing. But when COVID hit, that shut everything down for me and my channel and everything. And but at that time, I was learning about StreamYard and everything, and that's where everything kind of came together for me, because it kind of fit what my original thoughts were. Is I wanted to be kind of again a community oriented channel that has that's more of like a garden magazine that features all of us. We're all doing that sort of thing. And when I saw what we were able to do with this, I was like, you know what? I want to make something that's unique in the gardening world. I want to do something unique. I want to have just a full-on variety talk show, talking to gardeners, talking about garden stories from all of these awesome gardeners who are out there sharing their gardens, and they're, you know, making garden content for all of us out there to follow along with them. And that's kind of how all this kind of got started a few years ago. We're now on our second year, and I think, you know, when it comes down to it, next to your show and many other shows, I think, you know, we've got a pretty unique, great show talking about gardening, you know, right here on the weekends.
And that's what I tell people, like it was so funny when I first started having guests on, you know, they'd come on, they have a great time, and then a week later they started their own podcast. And I was like, awesome, perfect. I was like, there is more than enough people out there looking for content. You know, only thing I ask is don't do it Thursday at 7 p.m. That's when I do mine. You know, just don't do that. You know, just don't be
we got to arrange our time slots right. We could just kind of push each other to each time slot.
Don't be a direct competitor or I will crush you. No.
No, let's not bring competition into this, right?
Oh, dude, the gardening content creator that's competitive. That can get competitive, but most of us are pretty friendly, you know. But no, it's been awesome to see, like, you know, that them coming on has been like an inspiration. Like, oh, this seems pretty easy. I can do this. You know, I can do this. And so then they do their own, and, you know, rising tides. What is it? Rising waters raise all ships.
Yes, that's right. Rising tides raise all ships. Yeah, exactly. And you know, on that line too, though, I follow other YouTubers outside of the gardening community, and one of my favorite YouTubers from years ago is a guy named Roman Atwood. And he does some cool family vlogging that I kind of really got into. I wasn't too much into the pranking. I kind of missed all the prank stuff years and years ago and stuff. But when he was doing the vlogging, kind of caught up with that and really liked the way he inspires people. And he kind of quit for a while, but he just came back the other day with a whole new channel, a whole new vibe, a whole new thing going. But one of the things he was saying, though, and this is a guy who's accomplished millions of subscribers. He's got billions of views, you know what I mean, on what he does. And he's doing a video telling people like me and you and other folks who've got even smaller channels and stuff, is that you know, to keep going and keep doing this stuff. You know, don't get dissuaded by that, because there's you know, there's an audience for everybody out there.
Yes.
And there's plenty of people, and there's plenty of room for everybody. And, you know, another thing I was saying is, and if you haven't started one yet, start one, you know, get out there. You know, YouTube is, what they say, is only really kind of not even at the halfway point of what its potential is. Yeah. So, you know, there's plenty out there for all of us. Let's grow.
Right. And when I first got started, you know, doing content, you know, I was working at a job where I was working 7 days on and 7 days off. So I only worked 26 weeks out of the year. And I got started watching one of those like homesteading channels, like a Cog Hill Farm or a Justin Rhodes. And I was
Justin Rhodes was an early, I met Justin actually years ago. That was, he was my first inspirations, actually.
Exactly. And I was like, well, I'm already doing all this stuff. I've got cameras and all this stuff. I was like, why don't I start like a homesteading channel? Yeah. And I'd spend all day long shooting videos, spend all night editing just to wake up and have like 10 views like after a week. And I was getting discouraged, but I kept on keeping on. Yeah. And then my buddy, Farmer Froberg, told me, he was like, dude, why don't you start a TikTok? And I was like, okay. I was like, he goes, keep doing the YouTube stuff, but try a TikTok and just make it, turn your phone this way. And I was like, okay. And I did the TikTok and it took off, you know, and it was going nuts. And, you know, the YouTube kind of went stagnant, and then I moved to the Instagram, and the Instagram finally took off, and then I went to Facebook and it finally took off. So now I'm back at YouTube.
I believe that's how I found you, was through Instagram and the reels you were doing.
Right. And that's kind of my main platform is Instagram. But I really we were doing the live stream on Facebook for a little bit, but I really like the format better on YouTube for the live streams. Mm-hmm. So we'll continue to do live streams on YouTube from here on out, because
I throw them out to Facebook just to have them there. But our main center, and even on Facebook, is we're now gearing people like, hey, if you see us here, come over to YouTube. This is where you're going to catch up with the conversation and that sort of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then, you know, you want to have it in as many formats as possible. So we go to Spotify, we post it on
Facebook. Terrible at getting the reels done though, man. I'm telling you, that's just like, I mean, I love editing. I love making my videos. I get creative and all of that with the videos and everything. But the finding the creativity and the ability to turn the phone this way, like you said, has
Yeah.
been, been the toughest thing for me. I gotta work on it a bit more.
So,
Real quick question. I'm
okay.
sorry.
No, I was going to say, for anybody who wants to do YouTube and do TikTok and Instagram or whatever with the reels, shoot your video in 4K. Try to do it in 4K so you don't get
That's what I've been. Yeah.
and then zoom out a little bit, and then crop it to 9:16, and take a 60-second clip from your YouTube video.
Yeah.
And do that, because that's what I had to start doing, because I couldn't do two in a day. I couldn't.
I know.
So I had to crop.
Solopreneurs, right?
Yes.
We're doing this ourselves. That's a lot of work.
Oh yeah.
Let's see real quick. Jersey Girl was asking just a minute ago, is the garden party at a set time and day?
Yes, absolutely. It is every Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, and we usually go for about an hour or so, and then, like I said, it'll be on YouTube from here on out, and then you can check it out on Spotify and Facebook the next day.
All right, awesome. Let's see here. Let's see. Real quick. See Brampton's in here. Awesome to see you. Great. Excellent. Just trying to run through here to make sure I'm not missing any questions.
I'm the worst about
this is the thing though, and I love it. And I ask everybody to ask questions and everything, but we get in this conversation. And it's like, I want to find a way to fit these questions in here and not miss anybody. But
nice.
But everybody, one of the things I love about these two is how we get to see everybody have their own. They get into this really great conversation and everything. And talk with each other and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, I know. It's where having a producer kind of pays off. If you have like some kind of producer that pops it up for you, the production value on your live is amazing. I love this. I'm gonna send you some questions.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. I love it. Right on. So let's see here. You got anything interesting going on? Any future projects that you're looking to do right now?
So we do a lot of events in the spring and the fall. I try. Houston sounds like it's a small city, but it takes like 2.5 hours to drive across Houston. So I do stuff on the south side one weekend, and I'll do stuff on the northeast side the next weekend. So next weekend is Mother's Day weekend. I'll be at A&A Plant Co. in Montgomery, Texas, and we'll be doing a tropical plant. We're going to talk about hibiscuses, plumerias. I'm really into desert roses. So I've become a hoarder of desert roses. And then tomorrow I'll be at the Plumeria Society of America's Cinco de Mayo meeting. So that's gonna be fun. Plumerias are so much fun. And it's wild. I went to a sale last year, and the place was no bigger than like 40 by 40, but there must have been like 200 or 300 people lined up to get inside, and people who collect like certain plants like plumerias, they want like one from every grower. Like they have a list. It says like, oh, this is at table E4 on the right hand side. Like it's so wild. It was one of the craziest things I've ever seen. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
That's awesome. So you get to go out and do a lot of these events and speak and talk to people about growing and all of that. That's awesome.
It's my favorite thing to do, especially with the younger generation. I don't have children, and so I got a bunch of nieces and nephews, but I also get to help out. My wife's a teacher, and so she gets me involved with like the school gardens and stuff. So we've done, some school gardens, even a second story balcony garden with rolling planters. So it's been a lot of fun. I love to teach the kids, and I love to go out and talk to people and get spread the word of gardening.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. Yeah, and let's see here real quick. Last question for you. We'll kind of combine a couple. You got any sort of advice, tips, or anything for people who are getting started with gardening or growing, especially those who are growing in your area, Texas and South and all of that? And then we'll end with, we'll let everybody know again where you can find you and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So anybody who comes to me and has had no experience gardening and they want to get into gardening, the first thing I tell them is like, start with one. Start with one. Your first year gardening, don't go out to Home Depot and buy 40 tomato plants. Don't do it. Don't do it. Start it with one tomato plant and then maybe one eggplant or whatever you want to do, but just do one so you don't overwhelm yourself. I've seen a lot of people that want to get into gardening. They got their first year and they overdo it and they get overwhelmed. Start it with one plant, one thing, and then next year gradually progress. It is very easy to overwhelm yourself when it comes to gardening. I'm looking at it behind you right now, and it's not always fun. It's not always fun doing certain things.
I'll say real quick though too on that is that that's absolutely right. Most everybody, all the gardeners I know with experience and all of that, we're telling people, hey, start off slow. But I know when I started, and I bet you when you started, we weren't heeding in any of that sort of advice.
No.
When it came down to it, I jumped into anything and everything and really did overwhelm myself.
Yes.
So my advice for anybody who's just not going to listen to starting with just one tomato or anything like that is just know that if you get overwhelmed, don't give up.
And everybody kills plants.
That's right.
90% of the questions I get in my DMs is, why are my leaves falling off? And I told people, I was like, because leaves fall off. I was watching Shogun, the show on Hulu, and it was really good. And one of the quotes they said the reason the flowers are so beautiful is because they don't last forever. If they're around all the time, they wouldn't be as cherished and as memorable. So leaves fall off, fat flowers fall off. It happens. Nothing stays.
I feel that about the flowers right now. All my spring flowers are all dying off now. It's been beautiful out there. Now I got a bunch of dead heads everywhere.
Absolutely. No, for sure. And
I gotta wait till next spring.
Yes. Well, and you're gonna kill stuff. You're gonna kill tomatoes. Yep. For every plant I've got in my backyard, I've killed 10. You're gonna kill stuff.
Yeah, that's just true. Yeah, you're going to kill way more than you'll ever succeed at, and that's been the case for everybody I've talked to out there, even the most gifted gardeners out there. It's the same situation. So don't ever get too worried about the results or things that are going on. Just learn from it. Take notes, understand and learn, research, do things, consult people that you can trust about things. Be careful with information you get online, and that sort of stuff. So it's gardening's really not, I like to say, not too difficult, but there are a bunch of little ins and outs, and it's just good to get a good base knowledge of things and then just go wild, know. And that's where it is. Take some time, learn that base knowledge, get it, take a little slow start, figure some things out a little bit. Once you got that base knowledge, then just go ham on it.
Yeah. Well, and everybody's backyard is different. What works in my yard may not work in your yard, but take what you can from what I'm doing and make it work for you. And then don't be afraid to my biggest thing was people used to always comment on my videos and say, you can't do that. You can't use a tomato cage for tomatoes. You got to use tomato cages for peppers. And when people tell me stuff like that, it makes me want to do it even more. You know what I mean? So don't go and read a garden book your first year. Go out and kill some stuff. Get your hands dirty. The most important thing you can do in gardening isn't reading a book, isn't watching a podcast, which you should listen to the podcast.
That's right.
But is go outside and get your fingers in the soil. Right. That is the most important thing.
Yeah, that's where, and again, too, and it comes back down to kind of what we were talking about is creating that connection with our garden and nature and all that sort of stuff. And then we're going to just reap so many benefits out of it,
Absolutely. And like I said, I do the Garden Party podcast every Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. My co-host is Phil's Figs. Next week, we will have Jennifer from Hook and Garden, and the Anthony from Millennial Garden will be on the podcast next week.
Excellent.
So tune in for that, and you can find me as Texas Garden Guy everywhere.
That's awesome. Again, I love the crossing of different people. You got Jennifer. Jennifer's awesome. In fact, Jennifer, I met through the gardening competition that I was talking about just a little bit earlier. We were both competitors in that competition. That's how we met, and she was one of my first guests on the show that we did. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, Jennifer's awesome. I'm we've been trying to figure out. I tried to get her on for a week or two ago, but we're trying to get another date and get her back on here as well too. Really like her. And then Millennial Gardener, hopefully soon as well too.
For sure. Yeah,
Throw a word out. Throw a word out for us.
Yeah, he's a big fig guy with my buddy Phil's Figs over there, and they're both in North Carolina. There's like a North Carolina community of content creators. They've got it's a big
really
hub.
I think that really centers around Justin Rhodes, who we mentioned.
Yep.
I mean, when Justin and
them,
that's when homesteading really just blew up, was just kind of coming out of what they were doing. And just really, so many awesome people doing so many awesome things in North Carolina. And if there was somewhere else I would move other than Southern Oregon, because I love it here and I don't think I will, but it would probably be like North Carolina, I think, because there's just so many great people doing some really cool stuff in homesteading and agriculture and all that as well too.
Well, and for sure, and I know y'all do reading recommendations, and I'll do reading recommendations / guest recommendations. So my buddy, the plant professor, Vikram Baliga, he has a kid's book, Plants to the Rescue. I will recommend go check the plant prof out and having him on. And then my friend from New Jersey, Raish Gala. She is really awesome. She is great as well. I would recommend getting her as a guest. I can make a connection and hook that up.
Definitely look at Raish. We don't have to worry too much about Vikram because Vikram will be on the show in a couple
Fantastic.
of weeks as well too.
He's a busy man. He does a lot of podcasts himself. I tried to make him a standard weekly host, but he's too busy. I offered him money and he said no. But I try to get him on as often as I can. He'll be on in a couple of weeks.
Exactly. I love the stuff he does, and we're going to get on and talk a lot about garden myths.
Yes.
Because we're going to have some fun with garden myths when we talk to him.
He's a lot of fun. He is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I just love some of his reels, how he tears some stuff apart, or even some stuff he agrees with that you would kind of go, what? And so it's good to listen. I like what he does because there's some things I learn every time I see something he does.
It's usually like he starts up videos like, oh, this isn't too bad, and then they cover it in toothpaste and stick it in the ground. It's just like, what is going on? Like he's like the whole video falls apart. It's hilarious.
No doubt.
Oh my goodness.
Right on, man. And so again, too, here we are. I'm telling you, I can talk all day long. We've actually gone over, and I kind of had a little bit of a odd start, a little late start there for a moment there too today. So
we can blame Ryan.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, actually you did kind of mention about, what it's like to do live shows and stuff too, is sometimes there are little issues that pop up kind of last minute.
Yep.
And it was literally the last couple of minutes before you popped on. We were trying to get him the right link or get the link for him on his computer. And we're running right up to the show start and everything. But yeah, it's just the way it goes. But you know what? It's so fun to be able to, have this opportunity to be able to talk with people and to do this sort of stuff. And I get to have folks like yourself on the show. So, man, Destin, it's been just really awesome talking to you today. Absolutely. And again, too, we talked about before we even started the show, we talked a little bit with Ryan. Maybe we'll work on here in some weeks coming up in the summertime and maybe have you back on for one of our Sunday shows. Maybe the three of us can do a little round table or something.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll shoot you some dates for the garden party as well, maybe in July.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And also too here, and then I'm just going to end this here in a couple of minutes or something too. If you stick around here, maybe we can chat about that for just a moment. If you got an extra minute or so.
For sure.
All right, Destin. Thank you so much, man. I really, really appreciate it. This has been an awesome conversation. And like I said, man, I could just keep going on and on and on. We could find a million things to talk about. This is just, again, too, all a part of the fun of being able to get together with gardeners and have really great conversations. And we're so fortunate here on the Let's Get Growing show to have folks like yourself here, Destin, the Texas garden guy, on our show. Again, links down in the description below. Go check him out. Go subscribe. Go put a comment on one of his videos and tell him that you found him from the Let's Get Growing show.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Enoch. I appreciate it.
You got it, man. All right. We'll talk to you in a minute. All All right. Again, man, such a wonderful conversation. I was kind of really bummed. I almost took a week off last week, just from guests, and again too, talking about putting the show together like this. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of work and all that sort of stuff. So I got to build in some breaks here and there. But I love these conversations so much. It's another great episode again today for us all. And again, here real quick, if you are here with us here at the end of the show, definitely click that like button, click subscribe, and share with all of your friends. Let everybody know about the Let's Get Growing show here on Saturdays and Sundays. We got our Sunday show coming up tomorrow. Tomorrow, again, like I was saying, we're going to bring back our good friends, Christopher Bransdahl and Kang Starr. Going to be joining with us tomorrow to talk all about what they've got growing on. Again, another Texas gardener in Kang Starr, and our good friend Christopher Bransdahl. He grows all the way out of Norway, so he's got some really unique gardening conditions up there too. So it's really fun to see where they're what they've got growing on and all of that too. And then also be sure to check us out next week, as I mentioned. To Destin there, we have from Dream the Seed coming on our show for our Are You Following Me segment. And we've got Mike Van Doozy coming back with us for a return visit on the show. I'm really looking forward to talking to Mike. We had such a great conversation the last time he was on the show, so really looking forward to talking with him again next Saturday. So join with us again next Saturday for that conversation, as well as next Sunday as well too. We'll have Gardener Scott on the channel too. He's doing his monthly stop by with us, talking and answering all of your gardening questions with Gardener Scott on Sunday, this next Sunday, the second Sunday of the month. So we got lots and lots of great things going on, and so I hope that you all come and join with us this next Saturday. So let's see here real quick. I want to kind of run through and see if I'm not missing anything in our chat. We had so many awesome people with us here today. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining with us. Jersey Girl, Joe, we saw Joe in there. Awesome to see you, Joe. Darth X in there as well, too. Another longtime follower of the show. Let's see here. All right. Oh, Rick. I didn't see Rick. We got Rick in here from Australia. Good night, Rick. Hope that you're doing well over in Australia as well, too. So again, man, such a great show. Great time here talking with our guests today. And again, remember, come and join with us every Saturday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and the same time on Sunday, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here on the Urban Gardener channel. And I'll see all of you this next week.